On the shot clock, Clark, a deep three.
Feet on the hardwood, basketball in hand, guiding you.
Christmas morning was supposed to be quiet, a pause, a reset. But at 10 o'clock Eastern, everything changed. A single tweet from Nike, a 30-second video featuring Caitlin Clark, sent shockwaves through the WNBA that no highlight reel, no press release, no locker room story could match. What could a 30-second commercial do that shakes the foundation of an entire league?
When you strip away the noise and the bright lights, it's just the game you loved as a kid.
To understand, you have to look past the sneakers, past the statistics, and past the game itself, because this was not marketing. This was a declaration of war, and the WNBA may already be losing. The philosophy that shattered.
Chance for those who maybe otherwise wouldn't see her and the Fever play to have that opportunity.
For decades, the WNBA has operated on a very specific philosophy. The collective. The brand is the shield. The league has promoted something called the 144, the idea that every player is equal, every story matters, and no single athlete is bigger than the organization. It is a collective approach to sports marketing that Commissioner Engelbert has championed as the strategy to.
You work together as a team and as a family to determine what the right path is. It's not always going to be the same.
Protect the league from volatility. If no one player becomes too important, no one player can hold the league hostage. If the brand belongs to everyone, no individual departure can sink the ship. This philosophy made sense for years. It protected a league that struggled for attention in a sports landscape dominated by men.
What we set out to do was create a level playing field in terms of competition, but not necessarily to have a different champion every year.
Yeah. It created unity among players who were criminally underpaid compared to their NBA counterparts. It built a culture of shared sacrifice and mutual support. But when that Nike commercial aired on Christmas morning,
hey, Caitlin, how about from here?
Come on, guys.
It took a sledgehammer to that philosophy and left it in pieces on the floor. The production quality alone sent a message. This was not a standard athlete endorsement. This was high-budget cinematography that looked more like a movie trailer than a sports advertisement. The lighting was cinematic. The composition was deliberate. Every frame was designed to elevate its subject to mythological status. And surrounding Caitlin Clark were not WNBA legends or teammates, but A-list celebrities. Travis Scott, the global hip-hop icon. Jason and Travis Kelce, the current kings of sports media. Michael Che from Saturday Night Live. The cultural validation came not from women's basketball, but from the broader universe of American entertainment and male athletic stardom. The commercial showed Clark in a driveway, in the snow, sinking shots from impossible distances, while the world asked, "Can you make it from here?"
Hey, Caitlin, can you make it from there?
Her answer delivered with the quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly what she is worth. From anywhere. Look closely at the advertisement, and you will notice something telling. The WNBA logo is barely visible. If it appears at all, it is an afterthought. The ad focuses entirely on Clark's personal brand. It positions her not as a basketball player who happens to be in the WNBA.
Caitlin Clark, she is the greatest scorer college basketball has ever seen.
But as a cultural phenomenon that transcends the sport entirely. The league is not featured. The league is not needed. The message is unmistakable. There is no 144. There is Caitlin Clark. And then there is everyone else. For a commissioner who has staked her reputation on managing the ecosystem of the league, watching one player elevated to godlike status without the league's permission or control was a direct assault on her authority. This was not a partnership. This was not a collaboration. This was Nike flexing its muscles and telling the WNBA that they do not need the league to sell shoes. They just need Caitlin. The strategic ambush.
She's the dominating force, reshaping the landscape of college basketball.
The timing of this commercial release adds a layer of calculation that cannot be ignored. To fully grasp the fury inside the front office, you have to understand what else was happening in women's basketball at that exact moment. Just weeks before the Nike ad dropped, the basketball world was fixated on the launch of Unrivaled, a new 3-on-3 league founded by Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier. This was supposed to be the WNBA's answer to the offseason problem, an equity-based league designed by the players for the players, a way to keep talent in the United States, generate revenue for the veterans who had carried the torch for years, and build excitement during the months when the WNBA was dark. Commissioner Engelbert had publicly supported this initiative. She saw it as a vital piece of the WNBA's growth strategy.
Entire WNBA family last year, not having her here. It feels different this year, very positive. She's super excited, everyone else.
The league threw everything they had at Caitlin Clark to get her involved. Reports leaked that they offered her over $1 million for a few weeks of work, a historic sum, far exceeding her WNBA salary. It was a Lionel Messi type of offer designed to be impossible to refuse. Caitlin Clark refused. She declined the money. She declined the exposure. She chose to rest, to play golf, to step away from the spotlight. The old guard of the WNBA spun this as a missed opportunity. They insinuated that she was hurting the growth of the game by not participating. They suggested she was being selfish, prioritizing personal rest over collective progress. Then Christmas morning arrived, and the Nike commercial dropped like a bomb. The view counts tell the real story. Within 24 hours, Clark's 30-second advertisement had generated 6 times more views than the entire Unrivaled roster reveal and launch campaign combined. 6 times in one day. A single commercial for sneakers buried weeks of promotional effort from an entire league.
I'm just kind of ready for the next chapter and a new challenge in my life.
It was public humiliation for the establishment. It proved definitively that Clark did not need Unrivaled to stay relevant. Unrivaled needed her, and she had chosen to remind everyone of that fact at the exact moment when her absence was supposed to matter most. For Commissioner Engelbert, watching her carefully constructed off-season strategy get buried by a shoe commercial was a disaster of the highest order. It reinforced the terrifying possibility that the fans are not loyal to women's basketball as a concept. They are loyal to the Caitlin Clark show.
Caitlin Clark is the GOAT. Just watching her passion in the game, the way she just plays with her team.
And that realization strips the commissioner of all her leverage. How do you discipline or manage a player who holds the keys to the entire kingdom? The financial humiliation. One of the primary responsibilities of any commissioner is to make the league look professional, wealthy, and aspirational. Kathy Engelbert has a background in business. She ran Deloitte. She understands numbers, and the numbers exposed by this commercial are absolutely humiliating. When you see Caitlin Clark in an advertisement that looks like it cost $5 million to produce, wearing custom gear, standing alongside multi-millionaire rappers and NFL superstars, it creates a jarring contrast with the reality of the WNBA. The production value of that 30-second clip was higher than the production value of most WNBA game broadcasts. It makes the league look cheap by comparison. This commercial reminds every viewer that Clark is making tens of millions from Nike, Gatorade, and State Farm.
Well, I've always been super competitive and fiery, so I think it's kind of just been, finding how to balance that over my, career.
While the league she actually plays for pays her a rookie salary that would not cover the catering budget for that commercial shoot. The disparity is not subtle, it screams from every frame. The real money in women's basketball exists outside the WNBA, and everyone watching now knows it. This creates a public relations nightmare for the commissioner. She is currently in the middle of negotiating future collective bargaining agreements. She is trying to sell the narrative that the WNBA is a major league, deserving of major investment and major respect. But every time this advertisement airs during an NBA game or an NFL playoff broadcast, it undermines that narrative completely. It empowers the Players Association to point at the screen during negotiations and say, "Look at that. Look at the value she generates. Why are we fighting over scraps while Nike builds monuments to our teammate?" There are whispers that team owners have been calling the commissioner, demanding to know why they are not seeing a penny of this marketing. Explosion. The rage inside the front office is not just about jealousy or ego. It is about business. The WNBA is being cut out of the profit loop generated by its own biggest asset. Nike is capturing all the value while the league provides the platform for free. The locker room civil war. The most dangerous fallout from this commercial is happening inside the locker rooms, and this is where the commissioner's anxiety reaches its peak. A'ja Wilson is a 3-time MVP, a champion.
She's a 3-time WNBA champion. She's a 2-time WNBA Finals MVP.
By every traditional metric, she is the best player in the world right now. She also has a deal with Nike. She also had a commercial released recently. But the internet is a cruel and unforgiving place, and the side-by-side comparisons started flying the second Clark's advertisement dropped. Fans and analysts immediately pointed out the difference in quality. Clark's commercial was cinematic, moody, and expensive. Wilson's was criticized as simple, low effort, and visually flat. The narrative that formed online was instant and brutal. Nike is sabotaging A'ja to prop up Caitlyn. Whether that accusation is true or not is irrelevant to the commissioner. What matters is the perception, and the perception is poisonous. This commercial creates a massive rift between the league's 2 biggest stars in their respective camps. It validates the conspiracy theories held by many veteran players that the corporate machine is rigged against them, no matter how hard they work or how many championships they win.
She's a 3-time WNBA Defensive Player of the Year, 7-time WNBA All-Star, just to name the accomplishments on the court.
Engelbert has spent 2 years trying to extinguish fires regarding player conduct, hard fouls, and the targeting of Caitlyn Clark on the court. This commercial just poured gasoline on those flames. How can A'ja Wilson not feel slighted when she sees the difference in treatment? How can the other veterans not feel disrespected when they watch a second-year player receive the Michael Jordan treatment while they get generic promotional consideration? This breeds resentment. This breeds anger. And that anger manifests on the court in ways that damage the product. The commissioner knows that if the 2026 season turns into a revenge tour where veterans are targeting Clark because they feel disrespected by corporate sponsors, everything suffers. Basketball becomes secondary to the drama. The risk of injury escalates, the scandals multiply, and all of it lands on the commissioner's desk. The hierarchy bypass. There is another element of this commercial that represents a direct shot at the WNBA's institutional history. In almost every major WNBA marketing campaign of the past decade, the strategy has been to honor the past. You bring in Cheryl Swoops, you bring in Lisa Leslie, you bring in Sue Bird, you show the lineage.
Rebound, offensive board, and the putback by Lisa Leslie. She's the face of the WNBA.
It is a way of paying respect to the women who built the league when nobody was watching. But in From Anywhere, those legends were conspicuously absent. There was no passing of the torch. There was no acknowledgement of the players who came before. Instead, Clark was validated by men. Travis Scott, the Kelsey brothers, male celebrities from outside the sport entirely. This was a deliberate choice by Nike to position Clark outside of the WNBA timeline. The message to the audience is clear. She is not just the next great WNBA player inheriting a legacy. She is a pop culture icon who stands alongside the biggest male stars in the world. She does not need validation from women's basketball history. She has validation from global entertainment. For the gatekeepers of the sport, the former players who have been critical of Clark's fan base and protective of their own legacies, this is the ultimate insult. The commercial says without words, "We do not need your blessing. We have Travis Scott's blessing." It completely bypasses the hierarchy of the league. Commissioner Engelbert understands how dangerous this is. She needs the veterans to buy into the league's vision. She needs the alumni to support current initiatives. But when the face of the league is being marketed as separate from its history, as existing in a different universe entirely, it alienates the very foundation the WNBA was built upon. It creates a civil war between the new fans who only care about Clark.
How huge of fans they are. Look at that poster, Caitlyn. It would be enchanting to meet you. Are you kidding me? The custom shirts.
And the older fans who care about legacy and history. And the commissioner is trapped in the middle, taking fire from both directions. The power flip. To understand the deeply personal nature of this conflict, you have to revisit a controversy that erupted just months before the commercial aired. In October 2025, reports surfaced from a contentious meeting between Commissioner Engelbert and WNBA players. According to multiple sources present in that room, The commissioner allegedly told the assembled athletes they should be on their knees thanking their lucky stars for the media rights deal she had secured on their behalf. The comment landed like a grenade. While Engelbert attempted to walk back those words in subsequent interviews, the damage had already spread. Through locker rooms and group chats across the league, the statement painted her as an executive who believed the players owed her personal gratitude. It was a power play delivered from a position of assumed authority, a reminder of who sits at the head of the table, a declaration of who signs the checks and who should be thankful to receive them. This Nike commercial is the ultimate rebuttal to that sentiment. It is Caitlin Clark telling the commissioner, without uttering a single word, "I do not need to thank my lucky stars. I am the star." The 30 seconds of footage demonstrate with brutal clarity that her value is intrinsic. She brings the eyeballs that networks pay billions to attract. She brings the sponsors that keep franchises solvent. She generates the revenue that makes media rights deals possible in the first place. The commercial does not just promote sneakers. It announces that the source of power in women's basketball has fundamentally shifted. The leverage no longer belongs to the league office. Consider the mathematics that the commissioner must now confront. How can Engelbert tell Clark to be grateful for a league that pays her $76,000 annually?
You know, this is a dream. This is something I wrote down on a piece of paper when I was in second grade, get a basketball scholarship, play in the WNBA. This is always something I wanted to do.
When Nike alone is paying her $28 million, the numbers do not support any argument for gratitude. They expose an absurdity. The institution that benefits most from Clark's presence compensates her least. The corporations that orbit that institution have recognized her true market value while the league itself pretends it does not exist. The power dynamic has completely inverted. The player has become more valuable than the governance structure meant to contain her. And once any athlete realizes they are bigger than the institution they represent, the institution loses control. We witnessed echoes of this phenomenon in the NBA with LeBron James, who accumulated enough influence to dictate franchise decisions and reshape team rosters according to his preferences. But this situation is even more extreme because the wealth gap between Clark and her WNBA peers is astronomically wider. She exists in an entirely different economic universe than her teammates and opponents. They share a court, but inhabit separate financial realities. The commissioner built her authority on the assumption that players needed the league more than the league needed any individual player. That assumption has been demolished, and everyone in women's basketball knows it. The breakaway threat. There is a possibility lurking beneath the surface of this commercial that keeps WNBA owners awake at night, a scenario so threatening to the league's existence that executives barely whisper about it even in private conversations. The breakaway. For 2 years, the question surrounding Caitlin Clark was whether she belonged, whether her college dominance would translate to the professional level. That question has been definitively answered. She belongs. The doubters have been silenced by
This is what Caitlin Clark does, folks.
Performance, but this commercial poses a far more troubling question, one that the league cannot answer with statistics or highlight reels. Is the WNBA big enough for Caitlin Clark? Look at the visuals Nike chose. The scope is global. The ambition is unlimited. The From Anywhere tagline speaks to universal reach that transcends borders and institutions. The production quality implies resources that dwarf anything the WNBA has ever produced. This is not a commercial about a basketball player. This is a commercial about a global icon who happens to currently play in a specific league. The word currently is what should terrify the commissioner. What happens when the collective bargaining agreement expires? What happens if the league cannot offer Clark compensation that reflects her actual market value? The gap between her WNBA salary and her sponsor earnings is already embarrassing. If that gap cannot be closed, what prevents her from exploring alternatives? What stops Nike and Amazon from creating a Caitlin Clark World Tour? Exhibition games in major cities across the globe? Hand-picked opponents? Production values matching this commercial. Revenue splits that actually reflect who generates the audience. It sounds radical until you remember this advertisement proves the money exists. If Nike invests this budget into 30 seconds of footage, they will invest in whatever vehicle delivers maximum return. Right now, that vehicle is Caitlin Clark personally, not the Indiana Fever, not the WNBA as an institution, just her. This commercial functions as a warning shot. It announces without ambiguity, we built this star and we can take her anywhere we choose. The infrastructure exists. The financing exists. The audience exists. The only thing keeping her in the WNBA is the absence of a better alternative. The rage inside the commissioner's office is actually fear wearing a different mask. Fear that the WNBA is becoming merely a stepping stone rather than a destination. 30 seconds. That was all it took to redraw the map of power in women's basketball. One commercial, one player, and a league forced to confront the uncomfortable truth. The old rules no longer apply. The question now isn't who holds the ball on the court, it's who holds the future of the sport. Can the WNBA adapt, or has Caitlin Clark already rewritten the game? And if she has, what comes next for a league that suddenly finds itself answering to a star instead of leading her? The story is far from over, and the next move could change everything.